anything else that freaks us out at the moment with social media?
How they know where I am.
Got your water? Got your caffeine?
Oh, yes. Well caffeinated at this point.
Welcome to Unallocated Space, a monthly podcast by ArcPoint Forensics, where we speak to DFR experts to learn about their journey to the industry, current challenges, and latest research and wellness. I'm your host, Amy Moles, and joined by co-host Jared Ringenberg. And this month, we are joined by Dave Gonzalez.
Hi, I'm Jared. Amy, way to nail that intro. First time this season.
Last episode of the season.
Last episode of the season.
Finally got it.
For which we're excited to introduce Dave. So since 2016, Dave has been involved in the digital forensics field in both public and private sectors, helping people answer their questions, solve their problems, and most notably, being a jack of all trades. He has many merit badges, and when not deciphering RFCs, enjoys diving and conserving marine life, hiking through deserts, and volunteering. Dave, it's great to have you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for letting me join your show.
So Dave and I actually met through DFR Twitter. So anybody who's listening, you can meet awesome people like Dave every single day. But I think it's a great way to connect. So welcome. I'm glad that you were a very active participant of DFR Twitter. So now that we have you on the show and you've been completing digital forensic investigations for quite some time, can you tell us how you got started in the industry?
By making a very poor choice. So basically what happened is I was supposed to have a night off or whatever, and I ended up canceling that vacation day. And long and the short of it is, while I was at work that night, I got involved in a matter, and through the course of being involved in that matter, I got introduced to digital forensics. I'll be completely honest, I was not a tech guy when I started out. I just thought it was like, oh, this looks kind of cool and interesting. So I talked to a bunch of people on various social platforms and through networking, and they're like, hey, this is really something you want to do. You should probably look into taking some classes with, like, at the time it was called guidance software, and like obviously the end case classes. So I ended up getting to find a training passport, which was very painful at the time.
You bought it yourself?
Yeah.
Way to be, man.
And, so I ended up taking their computer forensic courses. Actually, while attending one of the classes, I had the opportunity to meet with one of your former guests. It's like, oh, if you really want to do this, you should also learn a thing or two about mobile forensics, right? So I ended up going out and taking the Celebrate courses. And that basically was how I got my start.
Who was the person that was our previous guest?
John Pizzura.
Oh, nice. Okay.
He was in my computer forensics 2 class.
So shout out to John for getting you started.
Yeah, right.
So you haven't always been interested in technology, and you kind of tripped and fell into it. Is that right?
Yeah, it was kind of accidental. One of my relatives is a sysadmin, and I was like, there's no way I ever want to do anything that involves computers, never, right? It's like, oof, those were famous last words, I guess.
Yeah, look at you now.
It was like, man, now it's all that my life is consumed by computers.
I feel like that's an understatement for all of us. Our life is consumed by computers. Sad.
So what did you think you would be doing? When you first got introduced to forensics, what were you doing, and what did you think you'd be doing?
I was working in government doing investigative work, and I figured, I'm just gonna do this forever. And computer forensics wasn't even anywhere on the radar. It wasn't even a thought in my mind. And I literally just kind of was in, I guess, the right place at the right time. And that little spark of curiosity unwound into a DFR.
Years of research, half a dozen certifications, and a whole bunch of positions.
I was going to say the ultimate rabbit hole.
Sure.
It's like Alice in Wonderland, just diving in.
Yeah, you could say it's kind of falling down a wormhole. I feel sometimes man, I was I have like a very natural, like I have a strong natural sense of curiosity and inquisitiveness. And it's just like, some days I wish I could just like turn the brain off and like not like, well, why? Well, why?
Yeah, that would
Yeah.
be nice, especially when you get the whys at like, I don't know, 9:30, 10:30, 11 o'clock at night.
All right. Or 2 o'clock in the morning when you're like perusing like DFI Twitter, you're like, oh man, I was like, I should go write this down. I got to follow up on this later.
I know. I have a really bad habit of when I get on Twitter, I was like, oh, I'm only going to just, quickly swipe through everything and see what's going on. And then it's like 2 hours later, I'm like, oh, I need to put this away.
Yeah,
I
right.
need to do something else. So are you currently working on any special projects or conducting any special research at the moment?
Right now I'm wrapping up a rare badge process, but I guess the main thing that I'm focused on right now is going down the wormhole of like mobile device malware and malware in general. It's just something that like fascinates me. Back when I was taking a SANS course back in, it was like 2021. It was a very long time ago. And one of the instructors, Chad Tilbury, was talking to us. He made a comment about like how when you think about advanced persistent threats, they're really actually just humans just like you and I. And during that course, I got like a little taste of like exposure to reverse engineering when we were talking about like code injection. I kind of like was like, oh, this looks like fun. I was like, I wonder where this could take me. So that's what I'm currently working on at the moment.
How long have you been working on that for?
I kind of like fell into it, say like fall of last year. So not too long. So it's just fascinating to like keep on pulling like the threads to see like, oh, well, this is like an interesting like call or API. Is like, it's like, I wonder what this does. It's like, it's so easy to get like lost in the details that at times you can just like, it's like, oh man, I'm in so deep. What was up?
What experiences set you up to go down the path of mobile malware? Was there like certain courses that stand out to you, or just a general interest, research?
I think a little bit more just curiosity.
Self-directed?
Yeah, I mean, I had exposure to mobile device malware when I was taking like a mobile security class and taking obviously in like my mobile forensics coursework. It's just something like fascinated me because mobile devices are just so ubiquitous in society that it's just, to me, it's just it's where I see the world going at some point to more heavily invested in like mobile computing. So I don't know. I guess it's just another rabbit.
Yes, I hear it's very popular.
Yes, it's fun because it's like a challenge. You have to put all like the puzzle pieces together and work in reverse. So yeah, it's a little hobby, I would say.
So what resources do you use to help with your projects?
So there's so many resources out there. There's like the DFR Discord, there's Twitter, there's a lot of podcasts on like security engineering. From time to time, I'll be crying as I read RFCs. It's just, the typeface is just so hard to read. The internet has just put like just petabytes of information at our fingertips that it's, I guess it's choose your own adventure, like see where the road takes you. So yeah, I guess those would be the resources that I'm currently using. I also like get a lot of like ideas from seeing what other people are doing. So
Yeah, I really liked how you put the APT, like APTs are just humans. I really, really like that. It kind of like brings it down where it doesn't seem as overwhelming or intimidating to like jump into that type of work.
so it's funny because like, you know, obviously like the big like buzzwords like AI and machine learning, but like at some point along the line, there was a human programming something. So
Yeah.
I mean, unless the machines are passing the Turing test and are self-aware.
Not yet. Soon.
Very soon.
So, as a jack of all trades and staying current in all of the things that you're doing right now, how do you avoid getting overwhelmed or like burned out by all the information coming in?
It is so hard. uh, I actually spend the better part of my life on Excel. And have like my life mapped out in Excel.
Okay, interesting.
Like Excel and like calendars, like I'm very like disciplined to, all right, it's 5 o'clock in the afternoon. All right, I'm going to read something before I go work out or go running. So in order to like prevent, I guess, burning out, so to speak, my recommendation would be like to be organized, schedule stuff, especially the stuff that you don't like to do. Because if it's not scheduled, you don't set like a reminder, there's probably like you're not going to follow up on it, and that's just human nature. I mean, everyone has stuff that they don't like to do. So basically like maintaining like a solid schedule and setting those like boundaries, because I am terrible about like FOMO and the fear of missing out. I have my phone and computer with me like everywhere I go. Just because I'm like, oh no, what if something bad happens and I'm like away? And it's so funny because like I have a phenomenal supervisor who's like very big on making sure that like we're all looking out for each other and that we're not like getting like overused and like rotating people around. But it's just like still it's like you know that fear that like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna like go somewhere and something really bad is gonna happen and they're gonna need me or they're gonna need some piece of information that I have. So
It'll be the one time you don't have your phone on you that you get that email that you
yeah,
need to respond to.
yeah, and I'm like, I don't
Yeah.
know.
So I'm curious about the spreadsheet.
Yeah.
What kind of information do you put in there, and how are you using that to track your workflow
So like
or your scheduling?
I set out like on Sunday night when I do like my meal prep Sunday, I also do like my scheduling for the week. So what I do is basically I lay out a grid of stuff that are non-negotiable that I have to do, whether that be work, fitness. And then when I look at that, I was like, all right, I have X amount of minutes here, I have X amount of minutes there. So that's basically free time that I can allocate to working on stuff, whether it be reading, listening to podcasts while I'm working, or so. Yeah,
That's a really interesting way of doing it.
I don't know. Like, it's interesting because one of my family members is like very organized. They're the one that I got the organization genes from, and by doing that, it takes off the, I guess, I don't want to say stress, but by having stuff planned out, it makes it easier to adjust to life's little like inconveniences. So
I was gonna say I use a passion planner that breaks out my day and week like by the hour, and then I have in there it has like 3 different sections for your to-do list or your priorities, and there's like your top priorities, the stuff that you would like to get done, and the stuff that would be nice to get done, right?
Yeah.
And that helps me because at the top of each day it says this is my focus area. So like for my to-do list, it's like my focus has to be this one item has to get done today. So it definitely helps. But I'm terrible because there's a work one and then there's a personal side. I never fill out my personal side, which is super unhealthy.
It's so funny because I tell people it's like, take my wallet, do not take my OneNote.
Yes. I love OneNote.
It's like, so I know you're talking about like the passion planner. That's basically like what I use to like map out what I want to accomplish. Because I know that if I don't map it out, there's a very low probability of me completing something. just because I know I'm not going to budget this time for it, or I'm going to allow someone to be like, oh, hey, I need help. I was like, okay. I'm like the sort of person that's like, oh, you need help? Sure, yeah, no worries, I'll jump in and help. So
Yeah.
it's about setting those boundaries in like all phases, whether it be personal life or your professional life. So
Absolutely.
I prefer the reactionary panic methodology, where every day is a surprise. You never know what you're going to get.
So I forgot to tell you, in the passion planner, I have a section that says Jared's freak out right here. Carve out 3 hours. That's how we deal with it.
I am curious. I'm always trying to find new ways to keep myself on task. You have your phone with you all the time. How do you keep from going down an Insta Reel rabbit hole and losing an hour of your life over and over and over? Not mad about it.
I don't know. I've been down those social media, I guess, like rabbit holes where it's like, oh, you might want to look at this. I'm like, wow, this is so fascinating. They're burning cottonwood off some guy's lawn. Like, this is
You're right. I did want to look at that.
I was like, oh my gosh, this is fascinating. So, yeah, it's honestly having mobile devices can be good and can be bad. It's good in the sense that it gives me the opportunity to learn more than I probably would, because you can bring MP3s or podcasts or recordings with you, and you can listen to it in the car, listen to it while you're working out. But it's also bad because if you don't set that boundary, then it just becomes controlling of your life.
Yeah. And they've got an army of people in machine learning science behind keeping you distracted, right?
Yeah.
And you're up against that. I still haven't found a good way to do it, because I like sit down and be like, oh, mental break, but 20 minutes in, I'm like, this feels like mental atrophy instead.
It's so funny because I'll be on social media or I'll be browsing the internet, and it's just fascinating the whole back end that's going on in the background to curate what you're browsing and looking at. Just like, oh, man, that'd be so fascinating. Just like to see,
it would, yeah.
Yeah, just like see how, like, what algorithms are being used to like curate your search results.
Yeah, and to get an inside scoop on some of the tests that they run,
yeah,
and the social experiments and stuff. Because I'm pretty sure Facebook admitted to this one, but they were testing negative messages on people to see how it would impact their mood. And yeah, it's just like more negative messages people got in their feed, they just became like upset and bothered and easily irritated. And
did they really have to do an experiment on that? I feel like that's pretty self-explanatory.
That seems pretty, like, I don't know. Doom scrolling through seems pretty straightforward.
yeah, I don't think we need to do research on that. It's just like, here it is. If you say negative things all day or see negative things all day, you're gonna be in a crap mood. Way to go, Facebook. True. Way to go.
Hindsight, right?
Yeah. They're like, all right, check the box, verified.
Yeah, it's crazy. I'm sure what they can do from a I don't know, social graph, socioeconomic perspective.
It's like the
AP stuff for sure.
It's disturbing. So we're going to talk about anything else that freaks us out at the moment with social media.
How they know where I am.
Oh yeah, dude, you can't escape it anymore. It's like,
it's so funny because like I actually will like turn off the location on my phone, and I'm like, man, I feel like a bad person because this is what like a bad person would do. But it's like, just don't like. I just want like to be left alone by like Google and Facebook and like all those like companies. Can you just let me just like feel alone, like enjoy your platform?
Yeah, I don't want to be tracked.
I was like, you don't need to know that I'm in the bathroom right now.
Don't need to know my every move.
They can predict that. Like, when you're gonna eat, when you're gonna use the bathroom.
as like, and coming from like the forensic perspective of like seeing some of the stuff that comes in like the returns, you're just like, what? Like they got it down to like 6 feet.
Totally creeped out now. Yeah, so since we're all freaked out about social media now and wound up about, the anxiety in us and being tracked everywhere,
Yeah.
I know from our chats and on Twitter, you've brought in grounding. I don't really know what grounding, like the technique of grounding is. So can you kind of explain what that is and what it means to be grounded and the benefits?
So from like a high level, grounding is basically focusing your energy to de-stress or unwind in order to prepare yourself to do something or just calm down. So it's kind of funny how this whole came about. I was watching a Yankee game, I think it was like a Sunday afternoon, like August, and one of the player for the Yankees, Matt Carpenter, was wandering the outfield. Well, I thought he was wandering the outfield, reading like from like a book. It's just like, what is this? And then they had like a sideline interview, and basically what the reporter was explaining is that to prepare for games, he basically focuses through walking around while reading. And I was like, huh. So I went down one of those like terrible Google rabbit holes and started reading about it. And it's like, oh, this is kind of cool. And it's like, oh my gosh, it's like DFIR is such like an intense field for many, because you're making decisions that ultimately are going to affect the outcome of whether it's someone's employment status, potentially their liberty, or just the general welfare of a community that you're protecting. So at times it can be very stressful. And I thought one that I got the idea is like, oh, you know what? Like this could be like a really good thing for people, because, that's kind of a good strategy to avoid burning out from obviously a very intense profession. So grounding can be done like many ways. It could be maybe like reciting a mantra, reading, walking around. Basically, the goal is to focus your energy so that you can be calm, and in turn, by being calm, you become more productive.
That's interesting, because it takes intentionality to find like what brings you back to an emotionally neutral state, I think. And if you don't set out to be like, hey, I'm going to figure this out and find like my happy ground, and then I'm going to have a plan to get me back to that state on a regular basis. Yeah, it's an interesting concept. So I'd heard about grounding before in the sense of like physical contact with the earth, basically energy grounding.
Yeah.
Or there's like grounding mats and stuff that people do. But it sounds like there's, the concept of emotional grounding. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It's really interesting. I don't know if I do anything that would be technically considered grounding. Sometimes I tell myself it's going to be okay about 50 times in a row. So maybe that's my mantra. It's okay. It's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay. Start petting myself. No, I guess I get up every morning and I go and work out. And when I come back, I make myself like a latte, and I will just sit in the dark by myself and just sometimes with my eyes closed drinking that. And I feel like that's my only moment of peace for the whole day. And maybe that's my grounding technique. I don't know. But that's usually how I start my day, which makes me sound like a totally antisocial mole in the ground. But
it's so funny because one of the other things that like they talk about is like breathing exercises, which kind of brought me back to the whole like tactical breathing that we were taught. So I was just like, it was kind of like fascinating to me because so like one of my hobbies is like aviation, and I'm a terrible person. I watch like air disasters on Nat Geo all the time, and like all they talk about is like human performance, and I'm like, man, how can I like perform? Like it just like fascinates me how they like go down the rabbit hole of like how this person was their human performance was affected. So that's why the whole grounding thing is kind of like been like a side thing that's kind of just interested me to like better understand how I can be a better person. So yeah.
So what are some techniques that you do for grounding?
I have like a couple things. Like I was saying, like I learned tactical breathing in my government job.
I feel like it's really important, actually.
Yeah, which helps a lot, especially when you're in the middle of an engagement. Because usually when you're in the middle of engagement, everyone, the house is on fire, and it's just like, all right, take a deep breath. Like, we're gonna figure out a strategy, and then we're gonna work through this. So that's where it's most present. But then, like, I also do like I go for like walks in the morning before I get go to work, and by walks I mean brisk runs for like 3 to 5 miles. So yeah, I mean, for me, I find that like physical fitness is how I can get focused and like locked in. So yeah, it's from what I've like discovered, it's what fits the person, as opposed to being more like a rigid like I guess like protocol. So
yeah, just like going with the flow of things.
Which is ironic for like STEM professionals and like DFR people who are used to like following like you have to do X, Y, and Z steps, and if you don't do X, Y, and Z steps, X, Y, and Z bad things is gonna happen. So it's like it's weird. It's just like I'm just gonna enjoy just like CrossFit WOD and like getting pummeled into the ground.
Yeah, when you say tactical breathing, so the only tactical breathing exercise that I'm familiar with is box breathing. You guys, do you know what that is? So you inhale for 4 or count of 4, and then hold for 4, breathe out for 4, hold for 4, and then start over. I was actually taught that in college.
Wow.
Yeah, my entire system. It's funny because I went to school for digital forensics, and my entire system crashed during my capstone. And I showed up at my advisor's office, and I was like, I can't breathe right now. And he's like, what happened? And I told him what had happened. And he's like, okay, it's fine. Like, you're a digital forensics student. Like, we'll just recover it. And I was like, I can't eat. Like, this is due in like 6 hours, and it's 40 pages. I can't get it together. So he was like, we're going to do this thing called box breathing. Do you know what that is? And I was like, no.
It's so, I always thought that was like the most effective thing, because like when I was in like a public safety role, I found that like getting people to like slow their breathing down could help them calm down, and like then you could help them work out their problems. So yeah, I mean, sometimes I think it's like a little out there, but like
no, there's all sorts of like science behind it.
Yeah, so yeah, it just fascinates me how like you can like regulate your heart rate and like your physiology. So
there's this little device that you can wear on your finger. It's called Heart Math, or it's made by Heart Math, and it will tell you like there's 3 different indicator lights on it, and it will tell you when you're elevating your heart rate before you even feel it going up or down, which is really interesting. So that way you can kind of be a little bit more familiar with like what is getting you riled up, or what's triggering that emotion, or to basically train yourself on that impulse control to bring it back down and grounded, I guess would be the best way to put it. Reground yourself.
It's interesting. So like, as I was saying before, like I'm really into like scuba diving. And one of like the interesting things that one of my scuba diving instructors was telling us about is that like, when people get in trouble, usually the first thing they run out of is air. And he's like, so just be cognizant of like how the rate at which you're breathing. And it's like, It's like, so now when I'm like under the water, like I constantly think about it. I was like, man, am I like respirating too fast?
Yeah. Have you done any free diving?
No, I haven't.
Okay. I haven't either, but I think it's pretty fascinating because like talk about controlling your breathing and then controlling your body, and the free divers, and like there's some kind of shock state that their body goes into basically as they dive, and they can just go way down and stay under for a while.
That just like spellbinds me, because you'll see these people dive for like hundreds of meters and on like a breath, and you're like, what?
Oh yeah, it's crazy.
Like, Like I can't hold my breath for like more than like 10 seconds.
Yeah, I would have passed out.
Have you heard of Wim Hof?
No.
Okay, he's I think he's known as the Iceman, but he does a ton of like the breathing stuff and trying to control the body. And I think it's been a while since I've seen some of this stuff, but his claims are that you can actually fight infections just through like basically psychological control and like telling your body how to do that. And I think I was watching him on something. He's like, all right, we're gonna do this exercise. It's gonna take like, I don't know, 6 minutes or something like that. And it was how long can you hold your breath? And I think without having practiced in a long time, I could probably hold my breath for like 20 seconds.
Yeah.
And then and I've gotten up to like, maybe a minute or so or whatever. He's like, all right, we're gonna do this, and then you're gonna be able to hold your breath for, I think it was maybe 2 minutes, something like that. I was like, there's no way. No way I can do that without having like practiced for a couple of days to work my way up to that. So I was like, all right, I'll just try it. And after a few minutes, it just went right into 2 minutes, and the 2 minutes went by. I felt like I could keep going. Yeah, it was crazy.
Well, that explains a lot of our meetings, Jared. I was wondering why you're holding your breath the whole time.
Yes.
He's like turning blue in the face. Oh my gosh. So what you're basically, so we were talking about like avoiding burnout and grounding and how that relates to your job and the stuff that we're doing in your career field. So we hear the term operational readiness a lot, right, in the workplace. Do you think that this is related in terms of like how grounding relates to like in all aspects of our life?
I think so. So going back to what I was telling you about earlier, I was taking like a SANS course like last year. And during the course, Chetler was talking about the team sport of DFIR. I was like, oh, there was like an epiphany. I was driving down the highway to the shore, and I was just like, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense now. And I was just like, but yeah, so in terms of like operational readiness, I look at it as I have an obligation or responsibility to be able to help my colleagues, be able to help my family, be able to help the community that like I'm responsible for. So if I'm not fit, or if I'm not, or I shouldn't say not fit, but if I'm not healthy, if in a good state of mind, or then I can't be that asset to help people out. So that's why like being in DFR has taught me how to load balance and how to set like boundaries. Because I'm like very like caring and helping person. So like if you ask for help, I'll probably say yes. I will not help you dispose of illegal and contraband items, but I will help you.
That's where you draw the line. Got it. All right. I'm just going to make a note of that real quick.
Hey, Dave, can you help me get rid of these rugs? They're a little heavy.
What is that stain on that rug?
Nothing. Don't worry about it.
Should I just get the bottle resolved? But no, so like yeah, I'm very like very focused on like helping, like obviously like I volunteer and stuff. So being like physically fit and I guess mentally awake and morally straight are something that like I guess going back to when I was in like scouting as a kid was always like drilled into us that like you have to embrace all of those three like tenets, and they all work together. So yeah, I consider that operational readiness not just like, oh, do you know this command line, or do you know what this artifact does? It's a more holistic approach to wellness, whether that be making time to go to the gym, being organized, basically putting yourself in a better situation to have overall better health.
I mean, it makes sense, right? Like if you're not in the right headspace, how can you do your job or be able to effectively help other people?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's like when I was in like public safety, they'd be like, whatever's going on outside of work, you need to check it out the door. Like you need to be focused on the task at hand. So yeah, to me, I bring a similar mindset to the work I'm doing in DFR, because if I'm not focused on the task at hand, then that increases the likelihood of a human performance failure. So
Yeah, absolutely.
it sounded really cold.
No, I think it was really good. It did not sound cold. No. This is serious stuff
Yeah, and
here on
it is very
Unallocated Space.
true. Like staying healthy and emotionally healthy so that you can, be available. It's
Yeah.
very, very true.
And like going back to burnout, Jared and I had talked about this, right? Is like when you feel burned out, I think a lot of people are like, oh, I need a weekend to like get it together and like recoup and stuff like that. When people say burnout, they mean like pushing their mental limits to the point where they're having a breakdown, or it's going to take weeks or months or even years sometimes to recover. And I don't think people realize the serious impact that can have on you like over time, right?
Yeah.
It's not just taking a time out on a weekend. It's like practicing it every single day.
Yeah, like I'm extremely fortunate. I consider myself extremely fortunate because like my supervisor's like phenomenal about that stuff, because he's like, yeah, you need to take like a vacation every quarter. You can't just like let your vacation days accrue like I do.
I need someone to force me on vacation.
Because if you don't get away from it, it just becomes like a cumulative effect. And you just aren't fresh when you need to be fresh. So yeah, I know that sounds kind of like corny or whatever, but yeah, if you're not fresh and not ready, you're ultimately, I don't want to say like a liability, but it makes it harder for the team as a whole to perform.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody for one of the big tech companies, and they have a mandatory policy across their organization that every day there's certain hours where nobody's allowed to schedule meetings, and Friday after 2 or after 1, nobody's allowed to schedule meetings. And the idea being that it forces everybody to have time to work on things that they need to work on. And then on Friday, you're getting ready to go in the weekend. If nobody has meetings Friday afternoon, it lets you get those things done so that you don't have to work on the weekend.
I gotta tell you, so my family's from Spain. In Spain, they have siesta during the day.
Ugh, I need that.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be pretty nice.
I just need a good, solid, hefty lunch and a nap in the middle of the day every day.
It's so funny because like I meal prep and I'm like, but then like next to my meal prep, I'll have like candy.
That's fine.
I'm a sugar addict.
I feel like that falls right into grounding, right? Put the piece of candy in your mouth, be present, enjoy that, move forward. Obviously, like grounding for me is food related.
I feel like the grounding for me now has become the guilt I feel after eating all the sugar. I told myself I wasn't going to eat. It's like, oh, hey, this is normal. Yeah, this is how my normal feels.
No, Jared, I think that's just guilt still. I think we got to work on that. Guilt and grounding. Two very separate things.
Especially now that like we're in like towards the end of the year with the holidays coming up, and like candy becomes so much more easily accessible.
Dude, I know. I went for lunch and there's this little hot dog stand down the road. It's Colombian hot dogs. It's amazing. They had these donuts from this local bakery. And I was just like, it took everything I had not to get one of those donuts.
Just one. Just one.
There were 2 that I wanted, and I walked away with none.
Wow.
But it took a lot of convincing myself.
I'm actually really impressed.
You know, I tell you, it's the small wins that build up the big victories. So like those like tiny wins are. I was like, oh, I'm not going to cave into like the temptation, and it's very easy.
Yeah. Well, and I think too that it builds on itself. Like as you start to do things where you win a little bit here, and then the next time you win a little bit, you start to get the mindset that you can or will win at these things, and so it kind of cascades over time.
You just build that, I guess, that mindset that you can go from being like, all right, bad things are going to happen to me. There's nothing I can do. It's out of my control. As like, no matter whatever, or you could be like, all right, you know what? I'm going to fight. And through fighting and winning those small battles, you start climbing mountains, and you're like, I gotta tell you, every time I look back, I'm like, I'm really doing this job. Like, I don't have a degree in digital forensics. I'm quote unquote what they say are quote unquote new collar. So like all my education came through putting myself through like certifications and being like, oh my gosh, I'm never gonna get this. I was like, I don't understand this concept. So yeah, I think the whole idea of building that, I guess, winning mentality through small victories. You don't have to like make these like big, like grand, like I guess like accomplishments. It's all right, today I'm gonna succeed at doing X, Y, and Z. All right, cool. Tomorrow I'm gonna build off of that to succeed at A, B, C. So yeah, it's the small victories that accumulate on top of each other. You're like, oh man, I'm sitting on top of a mountain right now. Ooh, how did I get here?
I'm so high up. No, I think that's an intangible skill that a lot of people don't focus on enough,
Yeah.
is like being able to celebrate that. So one of the things that is helpful for me is like if I'm having an off day where I feel like I'm getting nothing done out of the week, I will look at all of the things that I've already marked off as done and be like, oh, I actually did quite a bit this week. Maybe I can tone it down a little bit and celebrate the things that I already did as a job well done and give myself a little bit of a break. So
Yeah. I don't know if it's just like the region that I come from, but like the whole like I'm very competitive, and the whole concept of like being like really good, if not like the best, is like a driving factor. And it's not even for like the external validation. It's more like the internal motivation of like, all right, there's a challenge ahead of me. I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna like do what I need to do to overcome this challenge. At times that can be a little bit daunting because you just like throw yourself and it comes just like captivating or all encapsulating of your life. And you're like, man, this isn't really good. I was like, hope this ends soon. That's why, going back to what I was saying before, is that it's the small building blocks that build your career, whether that's like, all right, today I'm going to learn, I don't know, a few PowerShell commandlets. Tomorrow I'm going to learn, I don't know, an RFC. I'm going to learn how DNS works. Like,
read page 2 of that RFC.
They're so brutal. I was like, they're in like, just like, the typeface is just so hard to read. And it's just like, I was like, that's honestly the hardest part. Like, what usually ends up happening is like, I'll read it and then I'll go over to YouTube to watch someone like explain it to me. And it's just like, I probably should just watch the video ahead of time because I know myself well enough at this point that like, I'm not going to be able to, like, I'm a visual learner. So like, I'm going to have someone like make a video and explain it to me.
no, that's important to
It's been a
know
while
about
since
yourself too.
It's been a while since I read an RFC, but when I used to read RFCs, I'd have to be like, all right, this is happening. I'm going to have to look at this thing like 3 times. It's just like, no distractions. Here we go.
Mentally prepare yourself. Were you doing box breathing before you went into it, Jared?
I should have.
It's so funny because it's like the foundation of like the internet, basically. And
I know it is.
And you're like, oh my gosh, this is painful.
But then once you get through it, it's like, I don't know. I always felt like I knew just like everything made so much more sense after you get through it. It's just like
one of the first things I did when I started at the organization I'm currently at is my supervisor made me read, I forget which RFC it was. And it was honestly like, I literally the entire time was like, man, did I like bite off too much more, too much, like, am I in over my head? Like, then like, over time, like I got through the material and I was like, man, like, you're that much like smarter. I was like, oh, nice little small win, Dave. It's like, so now you can like talk intelligently and solve a problem like a lot easier. It's like, I'm very thankful that like I went through the process of having to like proofread RCs in hindsight.
Oh my goodness. Well, is there any other intangible skills that you think is important for folks to consider besides the technical ones?
Willingness to do jobs other people don't want to do. You will get ahead so much by doing jobs that other people don't want to do and doing it enthusiastically. Because people will take notice that you're the type of person that they can rely on. That and just having like a strong work ethic in general probably will get you farther than like, I know people that are like have like phenomenal technical skills, but they don't have like the drive. So it's just like, you're just like, man, I wish I could put that to, like, growing up, I was always the person I would be like, I was like, oh, I'm okay with like a B. Like, And then my sister would go for like the A, and she'd be so upset because she's like, you're wasting your potential. She's like, you're capable of an A. I was like, I was like, it wasn't until like later that I learned how to get that like work ethic, or not work ethic, but that internal drive. So I think, having good interpersonal skills, having a strong work ethic, being willing to do jobs other people don't want to do. I think that's what will set you apart. So,
what is a job that you did that no one else wanted to do? Can you share that with us?
I felt that one coming.
Sorry, I kind of set it up.
So, one time, I had to jump. It was like the middle of the summer. So I don't know if you're familiar, but in like the Northeast, the summer can get very humid. So it was like 95 degrees plus humidity out. And I was in the dumpster looking for evidence. So I'm like,
so gross.
I'm in the dumpster or whatever, right? And so outside of the dumpster, a few of my colleagues or whatever, and then like my late chief comes by and he sees like my blonde hair above, like just like popping a head above like the line of the dumpster. And he's like, is Gonzalez in there? And he's like, yeah. They're like, yeah, he is. And so he got out of the car and came over, and he's like, I really appreciate like the dedication. He's like, and commitment to get to solving it. It's like, it's like, I don't think you need to spend the entire day in the dumpster. It's a little hot out here.
I can't imagine what the smell was.
I will say that, like, people like make fun of me because like I have a hard time smelling stuff.
Well, in this case, it worked out.
For the job.
So yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's probably pretty bad. Like, but yeah, going like the extra mile and like doing like the stuff that people are like, oh no, that's too hard, or I don't want to do that. That's like, I mean, that was like, when I ended up getting promoted shortly thereafter that, and that was basically one of the reasons why they said I was getting promoted, because it was like, because I did stuff that other people didn't want to do.
Oh my gosh, they're like, this one deserves promotion because he went dumpster diving when it was like 95 degrees out, and it really actually felt like 108.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Jokes on them. There were donuts.
There were donuts.
No, there were tacos.
Oh,
Was it
we
on
are
a Tuesday?
painting. We are painting a picture. Gross. All right, so we are going to go right into experts reacts.
Okay.
Okay, so this is a scene from season 8 of Castle. I've never seen Castle, but it seems like there's some hacking and stuff going on. And since you've done a lot of incident response, I figured it would be interesting to see this play out. There's some pretty epic stuff in here. It's about 3 minutes, so a little bit longer of a clip, but it's just this one clip, and it's got gems all the way to the end. So, incident response. Here we go.
System breach.
Oh.
Firewall 1.
We got a problem.
What?
Someone synced a rat to one of my servers. Remote access tool. We're being hacked.
By Loxat?
I don't know.
But we've been so careful. How could they find us?
They haven't found us yet.
they?
Just cracked the
All the
outer layer of
firewalls.
our system. I'll start an intrusion inspection and find out who our rat is.
This is good.
Uh-oh.
What?
They're on to us. Vikram's trying to track our IP address.
Oh, can you stop it?
No.
Love the alert
I can
system.
slow him down.
It's coming from inside the city, trying to narrow it down.
Coming from inside the house. Starting Counter-Strike.
Oh man, this is getting intense.
Launch countermeasures. Cat videos.
What the hell?
I mean, it is the great distraction, right?
Good, but I am better.
Cat videos? That doesn't seem like Loxat. Who would do that?
We're about to find out.
That barely
There's only
slowed
one
him down.
person that
Sorry,
wouldn't
but he's
do
gonna
cat
find us in
videos.
less than a minute to be
I
aboard.
feel like you would do cat
We've
videos.
only got 2 of the blinky boxes left to go.
Sure.
Oh, blinky boxes.
Just hack.
Come on. Got it.
Found
That's
it.
Castle's office.
He must be working with Haley.
Oh,
She's got
no.
the skill set for this, and she is about to breach our firewall. If she does, they'll have instant access to our entire investigation.
No. That's going to put a target on Castle's back. We have to
I
stop
love the,
him.
the
I can
firewall
do it, but I need
breach as
time.
it's being attacked. Just is like a
Let me see
percentage
if I can
that's
buy you
going
some.
up.
Wait, that's not how that works.
She's called. What do I do?
Answer it. Let's see how much she knows.
Hey,
Hey, Dave.
change your mind about tonight?
Tonight's still not going to work. But what about right now? Feel like steaming up your office?
My office. That sounds great. I'm sort of in the middle of
Encrypting
something
that
right
last
now.
firewall.
Really? That's too bad, because I'm right downstairs.
Downstairs?
Yeah, I can be up in 10 seconds.
10 seconds is not long at all. Hang on 1 second. We gotta shut it down. She's gonna walk in the front door.
No. She's lying. Her phone is pinging from Queens.
She's already traced the
She
phone.
knows it's us who's hacking her.
Obviously, it's all part of the same network.
She's,
Sorry about
Haley
that.
is
Just
so
taking off
good.
my pants. You coming up?
He knows I'm lying. Hey, you know what? Something just came up.
Plans
Rain
change.
check?
Sure. You know where to find me.
Okay.
Seems like a healthy relationship.
She's understanding.
30%.
I could launch a cyber nuke, but it'll completely fry his system.
Ooh, the cyber nuke.
He's got a backup system at home.
Is that a go for launch?
Yes.
Full send.
No. Oh!
What just happened?
Armageddon, I'm afraid.
This is Slack.
So corny. Armageddon, I'm afraid.
Send the cyber nuke.
Where do we get one of those cyber nukes?
I don't know, we need one.
Let's say it.
Exactly.
I feel like the next time you have a meeting that you don't want to be in, like cyber nuke. Bye.
I'm just laughing. There's just too much in that.
That was a lot. That was
It was
when.
It was
So
a
I
lot.
haven't seen Castle in a while, but when did it come out? Does anyone know?
that was season.
I guess towards the end.
Yeah. Oh man, I love the comments on this video. It's we got one here. As an NSA agent, I concur this is accurate. The only thing missing is knuckle cracking before launching the cyber nukes.
True. Oh, that's good.
I'm a professionally licensed cat video watcher, and I can confirm that these were indeed beyond a reasonable point of doubt cats in those videos.
It's so funny. It's like I think there's like a website out there that's all like the 400 errors, and it's just pictures of cats doing things.
Yeah.
So that's not how any of that works? Is that just so that we're clear?
I like that they like just traced the that trace like so easily. I was like, man, I was like
IP address and cell phone.
I know,
Two traces in 1 3-minute segment.
I was like, whoa, it's like, you mean it's like you didn't have to plot it out manually? What? But yeah, that's why I was just like, I thought the funniest part though was like the firewall percentage breach. I was just like, I was laughing.
Yeah. I love that. And it's just got them stacked like one firewall leads to the next firewall, leads to the next firewall.
That was too funny, but I still think the cyber nuke is
that was my favorite. When I found the clip and I got towards the end, I was like, oh, this is a bit long. And they're like, I can launch a cyber nuke. I was like, yes, this is it.
This is the one.
You know what the cyber nuke is, right, Jared? It's just a run key.
It's a what? Oh.
I like the comments too on the video. Is there more? What are some other gems on there?
Oh yeah, there are some more. As a dentistry student, I can confirm this whole scene is extremely accurate.
Damn.
They just keep going. As an infosec student, this is accurate. Except for the only inaccurate part where no one is wearing a black hoodie.
Oh, true. Yeah. Where's the uniform?
Whoa. None of them had stickers on their laptops.
Yeah. This is total BS now. Garbage.
That's so not. That's not infosec at all. I just think it's like hilarious that like how fastly they like resolve that person's like IP back to like to knowing that it was capsules.
Can you imagine if it was that easy? One that we would have major issues.
Here's one. Dude started playing Counter-Strike in between a hack. I like that. I don't know who it was, but whoever was typed it in is like, launch Counter-Strike.
Oh my gosh.
You know what my favorite part though is like when like Beckett calls like Castle and is like, oh, I'm right downstairs. And I'm just like, not today. I'm trying to hack your computer.
I'm right in the middle of something actually, so
yeah, this is a really bad time. I was like,
the only thing that scene was missing was drone footage.
Yeah, right.
Yes. All right, so we're saying that that's not accurate then.
I wish that was damn. That was fucking sweet. I was like, the cyber nuke was like my favorite part because like a legit like missile that he was shooting at home.
And the icons that they used for the nuke, it just looked like some like clip art that they pulled off the internet.
I was like, that's what like a cyber nuke looks like. I was like, I gotta go like patent this before the guys in Crystal City do.
Oh man. Well, this has been a fantastic conversation. Yes, Jared.
More question. You talked about diving. I just started diving this year.
Nice.
And I haven't done a lot of it. I did a week on a sailboat in Nassau. I always get that wrong. I get made fun of relentlessly for it. But where do you dive? What's your favorite place to dive? And what kind of diving do you do?
Probably my favorite dive has been the USS Vandenberg in the Florida Keys. It's an artificial reef. I think it was like a former like communications ship that they basically like stripped down and sunk into like the Florida Keys to take pressure off of the coral reefs. Yeah, I think that's probably my favorite dive. Although this is kind of funny because like not every time, but like a lot of times when I'm like diving in places, I was like, man, I spent a lot of money on that DFIR training. I was like, it would really suck to get eaten by a shark right now.
Oh my God.
I was like, that would have been a really something to like regret.
And then we have to bring it back to breathing and controlled breathing.
Yeah, so that's why it's like diving is like one of like my favorite hobbies because it's like you're very in tune with your physiology. And you're in this situation where you're effectively not in control. I guess I shouldn't say that. It's not that you're not in control, it's that you have less control. I mean, most people in the DFI industry have a lot of control over their lives and are very, I won't say controlling people, but like are very, very type A personality type people that having to let go of that control can be a scary place. So
I don't know
yeah.
anything about that. Definitely not type A. Definitely
Definitely
not a
not.
control freak. I have no idea.
Yeah, well, with diving, I think it's one of those things where you're in an environment and you're kind of like basically forced into the situation, not forced in the situation, obviously you chose to be there, but once you're there, like nothing else really matters except like what's right in front of you in the next like 2 minutes, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like, it's just kind of it removes a lot of the outward distractions and helps you, like lets you focus on being present.
Yeah.
So are you being present for like the next 2 minutes looking out for sharks that are trying to eat you, or what does that look
Yes,
like?
yes. Sharks don't want to run into reefs, don't want to like hit other people, or make sure your air is still good, or I don't know, whatever. It's just like everything in your world that matters the most
Mhm.
in that moment is like these things like right here.
Yeah, I agree. You took like the words literally right out of my mouth.
Well, this has
Yeah.
been a good conversation. I like it. I'm so happy that you were a guest on our podcast. Thank you so much.
Thank you for letting me come on your show.
Absolutely. You'll have to come back.
Woo.
Yeah, it's good to meet you, Dave.
All right. Well, for everyone who's listening, you know, if you like the show, give it a thumbs up. We're on all the major different platforms now for podcasts. So that was a small feat. Speaking of small victories, getting us there. And we'll see you next time.